I found a letter from my fiancé's late wife, and now I think he's marrying me out of guilt. But when I confronted him, he said something that shattered my entire reality. Part 1. I, 31F, am supposed to be getting married in 3 weeks. The man I'm marrying, David, 36M, is someone I met 3 years ago. He's kind, thoughtful, emotionally available in all the ways I thought were a myth. But there's something I need to explain before I go any further. David is a widower. His wife, Eliza, died 5 years ago in a car accident. She was 29. They had been married for 6 years. I never got the full story from him, not at first, but I respected the boundary. I understood that grief is a minefield. When we started dating, I was careful. I didn't push. I let him share at his pace. And eventually he did. He told me Eliza was the love of his life. He told me he thought he'd never love again until he met me. That I helped him feel alive again. It was beautiful, tragic, romantic. Our relationship unfolded slowly, but meaningfully. I met his parents, who were surprisingly warm toward me. I assumed they had made peace with Eliza's death, though her photo still sat in a prominent place in their living room. I never tried to replace her. I didn't want to. I just wanted to love David for who he is now, not compete with who he was then. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. I was staying at David's place while we finalized the last-minute wedding chaos. Guest list dramas, floral mishaps, the usual. He had gone out to run errands while I stayed behind to clean out some old drawers in the guest room that we were converting into a home office. That's when I found the letter. It was tucked inside a hardbound journal, wedged between old tax documents. I wasn't snooping. Honestly, I wasn't. I opened the journal because I thought it was a blank notebook we could use, but the letter inside had my name on it, in handwriting that definitely wasn't David's. It said, "To the woman who will love David next." I froze. It was dated 2 months before Eliza's death. I know I should have stopped reading. It felt invasive, but my hands moved on their own. The letter was heart-wrenching. Eliza talked about how much she loved David, how much he deserved happiness, and how she knew he'd find someone else after her. She wrote about the rare disease she'd been diagnosed with, a degenerative neurological condition she had only told David about. She said the prognosis was grim, that she didn't want to live hooked up to machines, that she wanted to exit while things were still beautiful. She didn't die in a car accident. She died by suicide. I sat there for over an hour, rereading it, crying, shaking. I didn't know what to think. Why would David lie about how she died? Why would he hide this from me? Why was this letter never mentioned, let alone destroyed or hidden more carefully? That night, I couldn't keep it in. When he came home, I asked him straight out, "Why did you lie about how Eliza died?" The look on his face. Jesus. It was like I had punched a hole through his chest. He didn't deny it. He sat down, hands in his hair, and just crumpled. "She made me promise," he whispered. "She said no one could know. Not her family, not mine. She didn't want to be remembered that way." "But I'm not no one, David," I snapped, louder than I meant to. "I'm the woman you're marrying in 3 weeks." "I know," he said, his voice cracking, "and that's why I didn't tell you. I didn't want you to think I was still stuck in that grief, that I was with you because I was trying to fix something broken in me." "Are you?" I asked, quieter now. And he didn't answer. He just stared at me. That silence hit harder than anything else. I left that night. I didn't even pack a bag. I just got in my car and drove to my sister's place, sobbing so hard I could barely see the road. The thing is, I understand why he lied. I understand the shame, the grief, the weight of that promise. But I also feel like I've been living in someone else's love story. Like Eliza's ghost is in every room of this relationship, and I've just been the understudy. And here's the twist that's been eating me alive for the past 3 days. I went back to that journal. I read the rest. There was another letter. This one was to him. And it said, "If you find someone new, be honest with her. Don't make her live in my shadow. Love her like I'd want to be loved if I were her." So he didn't even keep her final wish. I don't know what to do. I still love him, but I don't know if I trust him. And the wedding's in 3 weeks. I haven't told anyone yet. Not my family, not my friends. Just you, Reddit. I need someone to tell me if I'm overreacting, if I'm sabotaging something beautiful because I got scared, or if this is a sign I've been ignoring for too long. It's been 2 days since I posted, and I've barely slept. The comments were overwhelming, some kind, others brutal, but all brutally honest. I didn't expect so many people to relate. Some shared stories of being the second love, others of hiding secrets to protect someone they loved. A few people warned me to dig deeper, that the timing didn't sit right, that something was off. So I did something I probably shouldn't have. I called Eliza's sister. Let me explain. I'd met her once. Natalie. She flew in for Christmas 2 years ago and we had dinner together. She seemed warm, a little reserved. I remembered her giving me a tight-lipped smile when David introduced me, but nothing hostile. I never thought we'd have any reason to speak again, but I couldn't stop thinking about what else might have been hidden from me. I didn't even know Eliza had a terminal illness, and I certainly didn't know she had a sister close enough to confide in. So I called. I started the conversation carefully, trying to sound neutral, but the second I mentioned the letter and Eliza's diagnosis, Natalie went quiet. Then she said, "What letter?" I froze. The one she wrote David, and one to me too, before she passed. Silence. Then she laughed. But it wasn't a warm laugh, it was this hollow sound that made my skin crawl. She didn't write him a letter, Natalie said. She was angry with him. They were fighting. She was thinking about leaving. That's when I felt the ground shift under my feet. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice suddenly so small. "I mean they weren't in love anymore," she said flatly. "She found out he cheated. She told me she was going to stay with me for a while, clear her head. Then 2 days later, the accident happened." Accident. I couldn't breathe. "I thought you knew," Natalie continued. "That's why I never reached out. I figured he told you his version." I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. I sat on my bathroom floor and stared at the tile until my phone died in my hand. That night, I confronted David again. I showed him both letters. I told him what Natalie said. His face went white. "She's lying," he said immediately, too fast. "She never liked me. She always wanted to poison Eliza against me." "But did you cheat on her?" Silence. I asked again, louder this time. "David, did you cheat on her?" He looked at me for a long time, then nodded. Once, like he was handing over a death sentence. "It was one night. A mistake. We were fighting. She was pushing me away, and I was selfish. I hated myself for it." "So she was going to leave you?" "I don't know, maybe, but she changed her mind. We talked. We had a good night. Then the crash happened." I don't know if I believe him. I don't know if I believe anything anymore. The letter, was it real? If Natalie never saw it, who's to say he didn't write it himself? It would explain a lot. The conveniently timed discovery. The handwriting that wasn't quite right, just familiar enough to seem plausible. He knew I was organizing that drawer. He left me alone in that house. What if he planted it? I'm spiraling, I know. But what kind of person lies about someone's death? Or forges a dead woman's words to manipulate the woman they're about to marry? I went back to my sister's house, and this time I told her everything. She's furious. Not just at him, but at me, for even considering going through with the wedding. "You've always been a romantic," she said. "You want to believe the best in people, even when they show you their worst." And here's the worst part. I still love him. I love the way he looks at me in the morning, like I'm a miracle. I love the way he talks to animals like they're people. I love the way he holds my hand during movies like we're teenagers. And I hate myself for it, because if everything Natalie said is true, then the man I'm about to marry didn't just lie. He rewrote the ending of someone else's life to make himself look like the victim. And maybe the worst part is, I let him. I wanted to believe the story, the tragic widower, the second chance, the healing arc. What if I'm no better than him? What if I let myself become the sequel instead of demanding my own story? I haven't called off the wedding. Not yet. But the dress is still hanging in my closet. And every time I look at it, I feel like a fraud. Part 3. Last night, I got an email. No subject line. Just an address I didn't recognize. But the contents? It was a scanned image of a journal entry. Not the one I found. A different one. And the handwriting? It was Eliza's. This time, I knew it. The person who sent it didn't say anything else. Just the image. It was dated 3 days before her death. And it changed everything. Here's what it said. "I told David today I need space. I can't pretend anymore. He cried, begged, said it was just one night, and he didn't even remember her name. I believe he regrets it, but it doesn't change that he lied to me. Over and over. I'm so tired. I want to disappear." My stomach turned. So Natalie was right. Eliza was leaving. She knew about the affair. And she was devastated. But the phrasing, "I want to disappear," I couldn't shake it. Was it just poetic? A turn of phrase in a moment of pain? Or was it literal? And more importantly, who the hell sent me that entry? I called Natalie. She swore it wasn't her, said she didn't even have access to Eliza's journals. So I went back to David. This time, I didn't ask, I demanded answers. Who else had Eliza's journals? He looked shaken, said only he and Eliza's mom had them. But her mom passed away last year. I asked again. He hesitated, then admitted there was one more person. Her therapist. Apparently, Eliza had been in therapy for years. After her diagnosis, her sessions intensified. David never met the therapist but knew her name, Dr. Carla Jensen. I asked for her contact info. He said he didn't have it anymore. So I searched, found her office, called, and miracle of miracles, she called me back. I told her who I was, that I was David's fiancé, that I'd come across a journal entry I suspected had come from Eliza's old notes, that I didn't want to break confidentiality. I just wanted to understand. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Eliza asked me to contact you, if you ever showed up." I didn't understand. She continued, "She left a sealed note for David's future partner. She said, and I quote, 'If he ever brings someone new into his life and she finds me, tell her the truth.'" I could barely breathe. I drove there the next morning, sat across from Dr. Jensen as she slid a pale blue envelope across the desk. It said, "To the woman after me." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, there was no drama, no long confessional, just one line. "If he told you I died in a car crash, then he's still lying to you." That was it, nothing more. But it was enough. I went home and packed my things. I didn't even wait for David to come back. I left the key on the counter. I didn't leave a note. I didn't owe him one. And for a few hours, I felt relief, a sick kind of freedom, like I had finally stopped choking on someone else's story. But then, I got another email. Same sender. This time, there was a message. "You're not the only one who thought something didn't add up." Attached were photos from the night of Eliza's death, security camera footage, David's car pulling up to the intersection where she died. The timestamp was 20 minutes before the crash. He said he was home all night. But his car, his license plate, was there. There was more. Screenshots of text between David and someone labeled unknown number. Him begging, her saying she couldn't take it anymore, that she was going to do something he'd regret, and him replying, "Just wait, please. Don't leave. Not like this." And then, nothing. I sat there reading those words over and over, feeling something cold crawl up my spine. Was it guilt? Or was it warning? I went to the police, not to accuse him of anything, but to hand over what I had. I told them I didn't know what to make of it, but I felt unsafe, that I thought there were pieces missing, that maybe this wasn't a suicide. The detective took the USB drive, said they'd follow up. That was 4 days ago. Today, they called me back. They asked me to come in, not because they were investigating David, because they needed to talk to me. Apparently, the anonymous email didn't come from a random tipster. It came from someone connected to the original crash investigation. And now they think the crash may not have been an accident or suicide. They think it may have been staged. Part 4. I didn't sleep at all the night before my meeting with the detective. My mind spun in endless loops. What did they mean by staged? Who would go that far? And if Eliza didn't die by suicide, then what the hell happened? I got to the station and was led into a windowless room that smelled like old coffee and stress. Detective Aranda sat across from me, mid-40s, tired eyes, but not unkind. "We re-examined the crash report from 5 years ago," he said, folding his hands on the table. "Based on what you brought us, and a few details we overlooked the first time, there are inconsistencies." "What kind of inconsistencies?" He pulled out a folder and laid down photos of the wreck. This car was reported as going 85 miles per hour in a 40 miles per hour zone. No skid marks, no sign of braking, but the engine data recorder shows it suddenly accelerated, as if the pedal was pushed hard in the last 3 seconds before impact. I stared at the photos, feeling nauseous. "But if she was driving," I started. "She wasn't," he interrupted gently. "The seat was adjusted too far back. Eliza was 5'4". The seat was set for someone at least 5'10". David is 6'1". That's when my hands started shaking. "You're saying David was driving?" "We don't have proof of that yet, but we have reason to believe someone else was in the vehicle, at least shortly before the crash, maybe even during, and that person may have tampered with the vehicle." I thought I was going to throw up. "Why wasn't this found before?" Aranda sighed. "Because everyone was too quick to close the case." She had a terminal illness. Her partner told us she'd been depressed. There was a suicide note emailed to her family from her account an hour after the crash. It fit the narrative. My heart stopped. Emailed? From where? An IP trace put it at a coffee shop 5 blocks from their home, but Eliza's phone was found inside the wreck. That's why we're reopening the file. Someone used her email, possibly from another device. It looked like a suicide, but now it looks like a cover-up. I sat in stunned silence. That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a hotel under a different name. I changed all my passwords. I turned off location tracking on everything. I didn't know if I was being paranoid or smart, but something in me knew I wasn't safe. And that feeling was confirmed when I got the 3rd email. This one was shorter, just 2 sentences. "You shouldn't have gone to the police. You don't know what you've started." There was no attachment this time, no sender name, just that same burner address. I called Aranda. He asked me to forward it immediately. Said their cyber division was already tracing the IPs. But until then, I should stay somewhere secure. Secure. As if that meant anything anymore. I didn't know what David knew, or what he didn't know. But I started seeing everything differently. The accident, the grief, the convenient lies, even our relationship. Was I ever anything more than a narrative reboot? A clean slate to project his redemption arc onto? And then came the part that broke me. I remembered something he said on our third date. It seemed romantic at the time. Now it feels like a confession hiding in plain sight. We were walking along the river, and I'd asked him if he believed in soulmates. He smiled a little sadly and said, "I think love is something you earn. Sometimes you get one shot at it, and sometimes you have to make your second one count, no matter what it takes." No matter what it takes. I'd thought he meant healing. But what if he meant control? I didn't want to believe he was capable of hurting her. But I did believe he was capable of lying, of manipulation, of constructing a whole false life to serve the image he wanted. And if Eliza was going to leave him, what would that have done to his image? To his sense of control? The next day, I got a call from a name I didn't recognize. Rebecca. She introduced herself as Eliza's old college roommate. Said she found me through mutual social media links after hearing through the grapevine that I was engaged to David. I wasn't sure I should say anything, she said, voice shaking. But something always felt wrong to me. I asked what she meant. She told me that 2 weeks before Eliza's death, Eliza had sent her a voice memo. She said it felt weird now, like maybe she was leaving a breadcrumb. Rebecca had it saved. She sent it to me. I sat on my hotel bed and listened to it, heart in my throat. Eliza's voice, soft, tired, unmistakable, filled the room. If anything happens to me, tell them to look at David. Don't believe the first version of the story. He's good at sounding broken, but that doesn't mean he's innocent. I dropped the phone. I couldn't cry anymore. I was past crying. I was numb. I sent the recording to Detective Aranda. I told him I was ready to give a full statement, but then the final twist came. 10 minutes after I sent it, my hotel room phone rang. No one should have known where I was. I picked up, shaking. Silence on the other end. Then one word, run. Click. Part 5, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bag, my phone, my charger, and ran barefoot to the elevator. I didn't stop to check out, didn't stop to think. I sprinted through the parking garage like someone was right behind me. Because in my gut, I felt it. I didn't know who called. But they knew where I was. And if they knew that much, they might know everything. I drove for 4 hours straight, switching highways every 30 minutes. I dumped my phone halfway through, tossed it into a drainage ditch, and picked up a burner from a gas station outside a dying town that looked like it hadn't updated its welcome sign since 2006. When I finally pulled into a roadside motel, I locked every deadbolt, shoved a chair under the door handle, and collapsed on the bed, every muscle in my body twitching with adrenaline. I kept thinking about that voice. It wasn't David's, that much I knew, but it was familiar. The next morning, I used the burner to call Detective Aranda from a blocked number. Told him what happened. He didn't even sound surprised. We traced the emails, he said. They didn't come from David. I sat up. Then who? They came from someone using an encrypted network. But we triangulated enough of the data to find one match. The sender used to work IT for the local PD. What? Why? Because 5 years ago, David called in a favor. Apparently, right after Eliza's death, David had a friend inside the force, a tech consultant who was quietly removed after an internal scandal involving data suppression. The man's name was Gavin. I didn't know the name, but something about it itching in my brain wouldn't stop. Aranda continued, "We think Gavin helped fake the suicide email, possibly altered crash records, cleaned up David's phone metadata. But why would he leak it now? That's what we're trying to figure out. It didn't make sense, unless the same person who helped David once was now turning on him." Later that night, I got another email. This time, not from a burner, a real account. Gavin, Ritter99 at subject, "She deserved better. So do you." Attached, a video. I stared at the file for 5 full minutes before pressing play. It was dashcam footage, a car interior, David in the driver's seat, Eliza in the passenger. They're arguing. The sound is muffled, but their faces say everything. She's crying, he's yelling. Then, she grabs for the door handle. He jerks the car to the side, shouts something that looks like, "You're not leaving me like this." Then he floors it. She screams. The camera shakes violently. Static. Then silence. I watched that video 12 times, each time feeling more like a ghost of myself. I sent it to the police, and that was the final piece they needed. David was arrested 2 days later. Charged with vehicular homicide, obstruction of justice, falsifying evidence, and possibly more, depending on what Gavin testifies. The trial is still pending, but the DA is confident. Turns out Eliza was planning to leave him. She had told friends, and she wasn't suicidal. David couldn't handle the reality of being abandoned, not again. He saw it as betrayal, as humiliation. And rather than let her go, he decided if he couldn't have her, no one could. He spent the next 5 years crafting a grieving widower persona, even managed to win sympathy awards. He turned his guilt into a public performance. And I was the final act, the new love, the fresh start, the redemption arc. He needed me to complete the illusion, and I almost did. Gavin came forward not out of guilt, but revenge. David burned him after the cover-up, left him to take the fall for an unrelated hacking charge, and never returned his calls. He spent years off the grid, until he saw our engagement announcement online. That's when he started watching, sending the journal pages, the emails, the video. He could have gone to the police directly, but he wanted me to see it first. I don't know if that makes him a villain or a vigilante. Maybe both. It's been 3 weeks since David's arrest. I'm back in my own apartment, slowly putting the pieces of myself back together. Therapy twice a week, no contact with anyone from David's circle. I've changed my number again. The wedding dress? Donated. I thought I'd feel empty, but strangely I don't. I feel clean. Wiser. Angrier, sure, but also alive in a way I haven't felt in years. This whole thing has made me question everything. How we fall for people, how we ignore red flags, how love can be used as a weapon when wrapped in the right kind of tragedy. But most of all, I've learned that just because someone's hurting doesn't mean they're harmless. I almost married a man who killed the last woman who tried to leave him, and I only got out because someone with nothing left to lose finally decided to speak. So no, I don't think I'm the asshole, but I was the naive one, and that almost got me killed.